From the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel, this is a tropical weather update.
Fred Gossage here in the Tennessee Valley Weather Center on this Thursday, October 30th, 2025 with the tropical weather update for today. We're continuing to watch Hurricane Melissa. We're about to have this thing out of here over the next 24 to 36 hours, but we have one more potential impact area that we're watching as it moves off to the northeast. We're watching Bermuda for the evening and especially the overnight for potential hurricane impacts here. But notice that it's starting to feel the wind shear from the upper level low that's been coming across the Tennessee Valley here over the past 24 hours. You can see things are starting to get elongated now, and it won't be too much longer before we start seeing Melissa weakening. We do have a hurricane warning in effect for the island of Bermuda. You see the little red outline there. All the hurricane warnings have been dropped for the Bahamas because Melissa is moving away and hurricane conditions are no longer impacting those areas. Here's the latest advisory as of the early afternoon. Melissa still holding on to 105 mile per hour winds for now. It's done a little bit of strengthening because even though it started to feel wind shear, the direction of that wind shear vector is the same direction that the storm is moving, but the wind shear will start to intensify as we head through the next 24 hours. It's still a Category 2 hurricane for now. Pressure down to 964 millibars, moving northeast at 30 miles per hour. Now it's doubled its speed since I talked to you this time yesterday afternoon on this track, moving to the northwest of Bermuda tonight, but there will be hurricane conditions, likely at least in rain bands as we head into the overnight hours. By Friday morning, it's off into the northwest Atlantic here, moving away from Bermuda, still holding on to hurricane force winds by Friday evening, but by that time, it will be becoming a non-tropical low as it merges fully in with the jet stream and then kicks on out of here as a non-tropical low. And then at that point, going into the weekend, we will finally have Melissa off the board. Outside of Melissa, that's still active over the western Atlantic, there are no other areas outlined in the Atlantic Basin or even the eastern Pacific for tropical development over the next 7 days. And looking at the model data, not seeing any surefire signs of anything to really worry about over the next 7 to 10 days, although we watch things carefully. Now that Melissa is checked off the list, the next name is Nestor. The door is still open for there to be another system or so as we head through the rest of the hurricane season. Keep in mind, the Atlantic hurricane season officially goes all the way through the end of November. The last day of it is November 30th, so we're not officially done yet, although we're in home stretch, and typically there are not too many storms that form in November. We're usually ramping things down in home stretch for the Atlantic hurricane season. We just can't turn our back on things completely, although we don't see any signs of development here for the next 10 days once we get Melissa off the board. If you're going to see something in November, there are some hot spots you need to watch, but the frequency goes down significantly based on climatology and decades of history. If you are going to watch for something, you watch the Western Caribbean with the Central American gyre extending up into the Bahamas to the Western Atlantic. And then you also watch the open Central Atlantic. Those would not be landfalling threats. Those would be recurving. And most of the time, things coming up out of the Caribbean usually are curving northeast across Cuba into the Bahamas and out into the Atlantic, similarly to what Melissa has done. However, if they do form far enough west, close enough to places like the Yucatan and such, either you can get a Yucatan or a Central American landfall in November, or occasionally you can get something to recurve northeastward far enough west that you still watch areas like the central and southern peninsula of Florida. So we don't completely close the door on Florida for November, but the chances are significantly going down. The frequency of November systems goes a lot lower, so we'll watch things very carefully, but we're in home stretch, and there's a decent chance that we'll be okay here as we head through the rest of the season. We just can't take our eye off the ball. We have to watch things very carefully. The chances of something getting into the northern Gulf, especially with all these cold fronts coming down in these upper level troughs, It's not completely zero because you never say zero because nobody's been to the future yet, but it's pretty close to zero because the waters are cooling off with the lower sun angle, even though it's still warm in the waters out there. And also we have the cold fronts coming down, helping cool the surface water temperatures and also helping push things off to the south. And there are signs in the model data that here over the next 10 to 14 days, some of these cold fronts even sneak down into the Northwest Caribbean, which would put a further roadblock on any U.S. threat. So we'll watch it carefully, but I do think we're in the home stretch here, and it's not a guarantee, but there's a decent chance we'll likely be okay for the remainder of the season that goes through the end of November. But we'll watch it carefully. Our next regularly scheduled tropical update is here at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning on our Halloween. That will be with Kelly Rawson. You can watch that right here on the Tennessee Valley Weather Channel.